You're watching TVC News, and certainly we've been talking about the issues of democracy on a wonderful day like this, where everyone is being enlightened to understand where we're coming from. When we talk about Democracy Day, what we are talking about generally. All right, the June 12, 1993 presidential election was adjudged the freest and fairest in the nation's history. Now, that was also an election where religion and sectionalism was relegated to the background as the nation sought to change its political narrative. Our next guest was not only an eyewitness to the events of 27 years ago, but he has also a presidential candidate. We certainly will be having one of those persons join us very soon, but we'll unveil him as we get along. But let me bring in Asukwa James in here. So we'll talk about this. Now, Asukwa, we've tried the system of parliamentary system of government in the First Republic. And then in the Second Republic, the military at that time, in their wisdom, thought that we should practice the presidential system of government, which we've come to embrace and we're using right now. But a lot of persons have said that it is too expensive and it is too prone to corruption.
Exactly. If you know why we actually practice the parliamentary system then was because of our colonial masters, and fortunately, it's working for them. As the British? Yes, it's working for them. All right. And the military, who also ruled us for a very long time, thought, okay, fine, for us to assuage the different interests in Nigeria, it's better we go into the presidential system. The presidential system of government. But in doing that, they would have also thought about, in doing that, we have moved, or the world has evolved. The world has evolved in the sense that we brought in the presidential system, but we did not bring out everything in the presidential system because we copied from from America. Yes. Because in America, there are so many things that we are doing wrong in terms of the presidential system of government. Okay. If you look at the American...
Would you see it as doing it wrong? Because the point there is, if you're copying, you will copy something and then fashion it to fit into your own peculiarity.
But we are unfortunately,
right. Let me put you on hold, Asukwa. Let me put you on hold. And let me bring in the publisher of Ovation magazine, one-time presidential candidate, Dele Momodu. It's nice to have you, Chief Momodu, on the program right now, and happy Democracy Day.
Happy Democracy Day, and it is nice to be on your program. Thank you.
Exactly. Now, you were part of the struggle using your voice and your material and resources to fight against the military rule at that time. And here you are right now. When you look back from 1993 until now, what do you think is the missing link between what the dream was for Nigeria at that time and what we are practicing right now?
Well, I think the biggest problem we have is that the military have refused to go fully and totally. As I've mentioned several times, in 1999, when we returned to democracy, the first beneficiary, President Olusegun Obasanjo, was a retired Army general. The next person was Alhaji Umaru Musa Yaradua, who also was the brother of a retired military general, Major General Shehu Musa Yaradua. By accident, we then had Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, who you could now describe as a full-blown civilian, but that was by accident because the then President Yaradua died. After that, the next president is also a retired Major General, Muhammadu Buhari. So if you look at it, it's been like a relay race between the military and the civilians. And today, we are hoping that as we move forward, and the lessons to take from June 12 was that we had an election in which we didn't have to use the military to chase anybody around. We didn't have thoughts cutting people's hands or heads. We had a peaceful election, except that after we conducted and concluded the election, some people colluded to terminate the results. That's what happened. So we pray that such will never happen again in our country. We pray that the civilians will allow the rule of law to stay, ensure the checks and balances are in place where the legislature can hold the executive in check, where the judiciary can hold everyone in check. Once we have that, we can now congratulate ourselves that we have imbibed the true spirit of June 12th.
All right. Now, when it comes to the democracy we talk about, certainly there are acceptable or general definitions for democracy where it involves everyone and for the people, government for the people, by the people, as the case may be. But if we narrow it down, really, is there really an ideal system where democracy is practiced as it is defined, apart from the days of the Greek city-states where everyone gathered in the center?
I don't think so. I mean, we used to think that the United States of America was the best example of democracy. But lately, we can see that even the democracy they practice is wobbly. So we need, I think every country must design its own version of democracy. You see, you cannot import something over and just dump it on the people. And I think that's the crisis we are having. Don't forget that Nigeria is multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and we have very, 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 very ambitious people here and there. So if you want to practice democracy, you must look at what would work for every country. Unfortunately, what we have done, look at the system, the presidential system we imported from America. It cannot work. America is a capitalist state. But a country as poor and impoverished as Nigeria cannot afford to practice capitalism, because, as I always say, you can't practice capitalism without capital. We don't have the capital to live such outlandish lifestyle of a president who travels on a Boeing 747, carries his own limousine everywhere he goes with a huge entourage, huge paraphernalia of office. We can't afford that in Nigeria. You can see that the money that we have in Nigeria today is only enough to sustain the politicians. We cannot sustain projects. We can't sustain infrastructure. We can't do anything. We are spending the bulk of our money, if not all of it, servicing. And that is because we imported a system that will not augur well. So what then do we need? Because we keep going backwards, talking about what happened, what did not happen. What then do we need? We need a system in Nigeria, a social welfare system that will cater for the needs of the majority of Nigerians. We're just too poor to practice the type of presidential system that we have now. Once upon a time, we had the parliamentary system. I still believe that the biggest mistake we made was to just terminate that. Our usual thing is that we just try something small, we dump it, then we move on. We dump it, we move on. The parliamentary ensured that each region was able to grow at its own pace. And today, power is concentrated only at the center. So that is why every governor, everybody must go to Abuja before they can do anything. And they go cap in hand, begging whoever is the leader in Abuja. I think that system needs to be looked at and, if possible, changed.
All right. Now, when it comes to perception of governance, it seems like Ghana is getting it right a little bit, or maybe a little ahead of Nigeria perceptively. You have worked and lived in Ghana for so many years. We've worked with some of the presidents or past presidents and even the current president in Ghana. What are the things, if you have to compare the two, what are the things Ghana is getting right that Nigeria also need to follow suit?
The first is that we were not as fortunate as Ghana